up, potty people, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna try to keep this intro as brief as possible because this video is already long enough as it is. But today we're doing a 3 looks in 1 palette with the Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1 palette. So I created 3 completely different looks, 3 different color stories, testing out all the shades and finishes and formulas. I really wanted to test out as much as possible to give you guys a well-rounded review. And throughout the spread of all 3 looks, I'm pretty sure I used every shade in the palette with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. So I really wanted to test out the palette as thoroughly as possible. So make sure you stay until the end because after the 3 looks are done, I actually go extremely in depth and very, very detailed with my thought breakdown, and I talk about literally everything. The packaging, the price, the formulas, the finishes, the color selection, the good, the bad, pros, cons, things I changed, things I love, literally everything you need to know before deciding to buy it for yourself. So make sure you stay to the end to watch all of that. So yeah, I really, really hope you guys enjoy this video and enjoy the looks. I'm actually wearing the palette on my eyes today too, but I didn't include this look in the video. So yeah, I'm still testing it. I'm still trying to figure out all kinds of looks and variations. So yeah, if you guys like this type of video, like the 3 looks, 1 palette style, make sure you give it a thumbs up to let me know. It's actually my first one, so if you want to see more like it, then let me know by liking it. And also comment below if you want to see more looks with this palette. I'd like to do a 3 looks in 1 palette with this one, doing more everyday looks, because this video is very, like, the looks are very dramatic and sparkly and glittery and glam. I really wanted to test out the glitters in the palette because I feel like that's probably the biggest selling point to this palette. So yeah, if you want to see more everyday version of this kind of video, then let me know in the comments. Subscribe to my channel. Please join my community and my family. I would love to have you here. And also turn your bell on so that you never miss an upload. I've had so many people in the past month tell me that they're not seeing my videos. So make sure you hit that bell. And without further ado, let's create 3 looks with the Texture Neutrals palette, and I will give you guys my final breakdown at the end. So let's go and get started. Okay, so we are doing look number 1. So I put on a black today because I kind of want to go more into the gray line. So this is the memory row or memory column. Whenever I was swatching this, this was the row that I was most impressed with. And it was the one that I was most shocked by because I'm not into cool tones. I'm not into grays and silvers and stuff like that. But this row, it caught my eye. It appealed to me. So first off, let's just go into Aura. This is the Aura Matte. So it's just a matte cream shade. I'm gonna use that to set my eye primer down. And she acts like this is a very opaque shade, and that it doesn't take much to get like full coverage on your eyelid. Very bright, very smooth, and just kind of silky looking. So yeah, that one's really pretty. So I will say that something that I feel like is lacking with this palette is good transition shades. There's really only this one to use as a transition, and I feel like it's one of those shades that can be built up to be darker, like depending on how deep your skin tone is. Let's just start with that one. We have to use it regardless, and put this right in the crease from the inner to the outer corner. I'm just gonna drag into the outer V as well, just so we have a place to put excess. But yeah, this is one of those shades that starts out pretty pigmented, but it's really, really easy to soften and diffuse. So that's a good thing. I guess with this row, we're just gonna have to jump straight into these shades because, I mean, I could do the brown, but I don't really feel like it's gonna pair well. Yeah, let's just go ahead and go into this black pink sequin shade. I will say it's blending out and softening really, really nicely. And it's softening like in a very like charcoal-y kind of way. Okay, so there's what we're looking like so far. I'm gonna go back into a different brush for that same matte transition shade that we put down. And I'm just gonna go back and forth in the socket just to help blend the black into the tan. Okay, so something I learned with that black sequin shade is that if you just strictly buff it, it kind of loses the pink sequins. I can see it, but it's definitely not as intense on this side where I patted it on and then I really just blended out the edges. So I'm gonna get some more of that sequin shade on there. Tap off a lot of the excess. This one does have a lot more fallout, but that's typical. I'm just gonna pack this back on just so I can see that sequin glitter in there. Using that dark brown as like a step down from that top transition shade probably would have worked, but I'm gonna go ahead and take that charcoal metallic shade in the memory row. So let's just kind of go more in the center, and I'm not wetting it, this is dry. So that's applying really, really nice. So now I'm gonna move on to the other side. I'm gonna wet my brush this time. It's actually not packing it on as metallic and wet as I thought. That's kind of weird. It actually kind of sheared it out a little bit whenever I wet it. That doesn't really make any sense. It's working fine now that I'm layering it and like packing it on, but I'm just kind of shocked that it didn't do that right from the get-go. I'm gonna go back into this side, and this may be the type of formula that performs better with your finger. So let's just go back in and tap that on. Okay, so definitely does pack a good amount on with your finger. It looks good with the dry brush as well. Okay, so now moving on to the glitter in the memory row. So this is really, really pretty. And I am gonna pack this on with my finger. I think it will work better. Yeah, this is so extremely pretty. Like, to me, this entire row screams New Year's. I'm kind of afraid I got too much on here, so I may tap a little bit on both sides. And there's no glitter glue. I'm not doing glitter glue. So, oh, I don't really have a big enough space. Oh, I got too much on my finger. Okay, that is incredible. That's adhering the way any regular shadow would. Like, it's not performing the way most pressed glitters would, and it's fading into the shades so beautifully. So, brow bone highlight. So I'm gonna go into that Aura shade, the matte Aura shade that we use for my eye primer, or to set my eye primer, and I'm just gonna use that to clean up the brow bone area. And honestly, this is more sheer than I thought it would be. I thought this would be a lot more pigmented. It's definitely more of a buildable formula. That's kind of what I'm seeing with what I've used so far. Though I'm gonna use the matte black in the palette for eyeliner. I'm not gonna use anything else. And I've heard so many good things about this black. I've heard that this is the richest, most jet matte black shade. I'm just gonna stamp this right at the base. So my fear is that it's not going to show up a whole lot because everything is very black undertoned already. But it's definitely more of that buildable formula like the other mattes that I've used are. So that's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing when it comes to putting it on your outer, like to put it on your eye. It's good to have a buildable soft black. Like, you don't want a black that's too pigmented and too jet black right out of the gate, because then you're going to have to spend a lot of time working that out and blending it and softening it, and it can be a little harsh. If you're using it as eyeliner, you're gonna have to build it up a little bit. But I also have to build it up because I have glitter all over my eye and it's a very similar tone. So yeah, we'll see how that works with the other shades, because I will use that matte black for the other looks I do as well. So I'm gonna go into the Sequin Aura shade. So this is the one that whenever I swatched it, like pictures and in video, it doesn't do it justice. This is like a cream color with a pink sequin in it. Hopefully this doesn't translate to be too matte, because it's actually like a matte eyeshadow just with the sequins in it. So it's a matte shadow base. I don't know how I like that for an inner corner to blend into the glitter. Let's go into the Aura row and let's go into this metallic. So this is the Aura metallic, which just looks like a really creamy champagne kind of tone. Let's pop that right over it. And that's still not exactly what I'm looking for. To be honest, the metallic row was what I was least impressed with. They were actually kind of stiff. They weren't as buttery and smooth and just like rich as the other ones. And don't get me wrong, it's very pretty. I just don't know how I like it. It actually looks pretty good. That'll work. But I do want to go back into a smaller brush, like an inner corner top brush. And I'm going to take that glitter again, just a little bit on there. It picks up so much product. That's so crazy. So I'm going to go back in. Ooh, too much. And just kind of touch up that inner corner right there, just because I feel like that matte sequin shade kind of erased some of the intensity and made it look kind of funny. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and finish up my mascara and the rest of my face. Alrighty, I'm back with the rest of my face done. If you're wondering what I'm wearing, I will have it all linked below. Just look under look number 1, or like day 1. I'll have it labeled because each day I'll be wearing something different, so there will be 3 different product detail breakdowns. So yeah, it'll all be down there. I'm gonna go into the Matte Soothe and also Matte Ritual, which is that brown that I was wanting to use but didn't end up using it. So yeah, I'm gonna first go into that matte transition shade that we put on in the top. So yeah, I'm just gonna start smoking this out, and you can smoke this out as little or as much as you want, but I do want to connect it up to the top just so it all kind of unifies together. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into Ritual, Matte Ritual, just kind of wiggle it in there. I'm not gonna smoke this out a whole lot. This is just gonna be used for the base, but I think it's gonna look like balanced once I get done. Then I'm gonna go with that first larger round brush and just smudge right below all that. And then some mascara, and then we are done. Alrighty, so here's look number 1 with the Tati palette. So I am extremely impressed with this. I love the way it turned out. Like I said, I'm not someone that's super into cool toned, silvery, gray, charcoal, black shadows. It's not too cool tone. Like, there's a little bit of warmth in there and just a little bit of like a neutrality to it that makes it just really universally flattering. I did have to go back in and touch it up just a little bit right there, just because I felt like the inner corner champagne shades they weren't really fusing well into the glitters. So I probably should have gone in with a glitter for my inner corner highlight, but it's whatever. But I did touch it up. I did get some fallout, and it's kind of hard to sweep it away. So definitely do your eyes first. So yeah, here is look number 1, and I'll see you for look number 2. All right, guys, so it's time to create look number 2. So today I think I'm gonna stay more in the pink range. So this is the Poet row. So just like we did yesterday, I'm gonna go into Aura, Matte Aura, and I'm gonna use that to set my eye primer down. So something that I noticed last night whenever I was taking my makeup off, and just also throughout the day as I was looking at my makeup, is that there was a lot of glitter fallout on my skin, like on like my cheek area. And I don't know if that came, like if the fallout happened throughout the day as I was wearing the look, or if maybe the glitter was stuck underneath my foundation, because I did say that I couldn't really get it off completely. So today I'll be more careful with actually getting that fallout up before I put my foundation and stuff on. And that way we'll know, like, if I have fallout at the end of the night, it wasn't what was underneath the foundation. Like, it happened throughout the day. So as I said yesterday, I kind of have a problem with the fact that there's not a transition shade for every row. I just watched Allie Glines' video doing her first tutorial with this palette, and she did use Soothe with the pink row. So it looked really good when she did it. So let's just go in with that matte Soothe, because I mean, really, this is the only transition shade that you have in the palette. So I guess we really need to test out how universal and how complementary it is with the other rows. It is a really pretty color. It's very, very smooth. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go straight into Matte Poet, and that one does seem to be very pigmented. So I'm just gonna get just a little bit on there. Like I just dipped it in one time. And let's just put this in the outer V, and then just kind of drag whatever's left over. Like once it's kind of softened in the outer V first, just drag whatever's left over into the crease. So it seems really scary at first because it's so pigmented, but it buffs out very, very easily. So yeah, looks very soft. So I'm gonna go in with just a little bit more. I'm just gonna do doop. And now that I'm kind of getting a little bit more brave with it, we're gonna build it up a little bit more. Okay, so I think the obvious thing to do is to now try Poet Sequins. It's a little redundant to put this on top because I feel like it's still the matte pink. But I'm gonna tap it on and maybe even wet the brush to see if we can get that blue sequence to show up just a little bit more. But even by tapping it in, and I did spray my brush as well, I'm not really seeing a lot of the blue sequence. Like I'm seeing it a little bit whenever I turn my head a certain direction. You can probably see on camera. Like it just kind of picks up light. Maybe I need a different type of brush. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with a little tiny brush like this. And let's try on the other side. Let's try just tapping it on dry just to see. Okay, so here's what it looks like tapped in on this side. And it definitely did give more dimension. Like it definitely did darken that outer V, and it gave us a little bit more depth. I mean, it's not super noticeable, but I don't think it has to be. I think it's one of those things where it's just like you're in a certain lighting or you move your head a certain way and you can see it. So I don't think it's supposed to be super like in your face. But yeah, I mean, it's really pretty. And I'm gonna go with that brush I used for Matte Soothe, which was that tan crease shade. And with whatever's left over, blend above all of it. Now I'm gonna go into Metallic Poet up here. I'm just gonna put this in the center of the eye and let this be our fade shade into the outer V, because I do want to go in with the glitter, and this would kind of act as a base for that glitter. Yeah, there's what it looks like dry. It's really pretty. I mean, it packs on really well. There's not any fallout, so that's a good thing. So I'm gonna go on the other side and wet the brush, and we're just gonna see if wetting it brings out anything about it that makes it look special. Okay, so there's what that shade looks like wet. It definitely applied better wet, but honestly not really a whole lot. It just, I think it looks better wet. All right, so instead of using the glitter Poet, which is that like raspberry magenta glitter, I'm gonna use the Aura glitter because this is so unique. And whenever I swatched this, I was just like, ugh. Let's just try it dry because, you know, each formula may be a little inconsistent. So we're just gonna see which way we like it better. So I'm just gonna do the same thing we did yesterday. I'm actually gonna wet the brush this time. I feel like that made it look a little bit smoother yesterday. And then I'm gonna bring it a little bit more towards the center. It may cover up a lot of that metallic shade, but that's okay. Okay, so there's what it looks like. Kind of wet, kind of dry, a little mixture of both. It looks really pretty. I feel like it'll look a lot better once I have the whole shebang done. So on the other side, I think I'm just gonna pack it on my finger to see if I like it better. All right, so I do like the coverage that you get better with your finger with the glitters. I feel like it just makes it look just more consistent across the board. I will say I feel like you can get more precision with the brush because you can kind of find your stopping point better. It just blends it better into the crease. Whereas with your finger, it just kind of gets everywhere and it's easy to put it in places that you don't really want to put it. Okay, so we're gonna go into my brow bone highlight now. And I'm actually gonna try Aura Sequins, which is that cream with a pink sequin glitter throughout. I'm gonna try that as my brow bone highlight because yesterday whenever I put it on in my inner corner, I just didn't really like how it blended into the glitter. Actually, let's go into Matte Aura first and let's actually clean it up and just help fade the top a little bit better. And then go into Sequins Aura and just like tap it on in the area where I want, because I don't want it like the entire brow bone. I mean, does it show up a whole lot? No. Okay, so before I move on to mascara and stuff, I want to do Memory Sequin as my eyeliner. This is the one that is black, but it has like pink and blue and different color sequins in it, and I feel like that would look really, really good with the pink rose. Let's actually wet the brush, and let's see what that does, and if it intensifies it and makes it show up more. Okay, so wetting that sequins black shade turned out really, really well. It looks super intense, very jet black. I can't really see a lot of the sequins in there, but it's also covering up glitter, so I don't think you're actually gonna see it a whole lot. But I'm really gonna try to get all this off before I move on to my face makeup. Oh, there's just, there's no getting it all off. Okay, so now that my face is rubbed raw, I can't get it all off. I used like 3 different cotton pads with micellar water. I went ahead and just rinsed my face off with some water and wiped it off with a towel. And there's still glitter particles across my face, like on my forehead, on my cheek area. I just can't get it off. But I'm just not fully convinced that this is actually gonna show up through all those layers of face makeup. All right, we are back with the full face makeup done. And I will say I do not see glitter particles on my face right now. So I'm gonna first go into Matte Soothe for my lower lash line. We're gonna let this be our smoking out shade. Once again, I'm probably gonna get really tired of using this shade. I will say that. I'm just gonna blow this out. Okay, so now let's go into Sequin Poet. I'm gonna tap off the excess because I don't want fallout on my face. I'm having a very good face day, and these days do not come cheap. So I feel like I kind of have to wiggle it. Like I can't just stamp it because I do want this to be softer. Like I don't want it to just be stamped at my lash. So that's looking really good. I kind of want to do a blue in the waterline just to enhance that sequins blue in that Poet shade. So Koki just sent me their entire line of the retractable kohl eyeliner, and I'm trying to see, like I think I'm gonna go with this shade right here. This is in the shade Metallic Blue because this is a similar color to what's in that Sequin Poet. So we'll see if we can kind of enhance that a little bit. Actually, I forgot to go in with an inner corner highlight. I had this problem yesterday where I didn't know what to put in the inner corner because I feel like the metallics don't really blend into the glitter all that well. The sequins definitely don't blend into the glitter because it's more of a matte base. So maybe I should just take that same glitter that we put on the lid and we'll just be a glitter whore. Who cares? We've already passed that bridge a long time ago. Okay, so I got myself in a pickle. So I forgot that I did this yesterday. Like after I put my face makeup on, I did go back in and touch up the glitter. So that may have been where the fallout was coming from. We're gonna see if we can sweep it away. It's just such a stiff, like highly adhering glitter, which is a good thing for the eyes. All right, so here's look number 2 with the pinks in the palette, and I really enjoy this one as well. So I will come back tomorrow and we will create our 3rd look. Whoa, it is so bright in here today. Okay, so today it's time to create our 3rd and final look with the Tati palette, and today I want to focus more on the Ritual row, which is the bronze brown tones, because I feel like a lot of people are gonna be drawn to that. And I actually want to use a different primer today because I haven't had the best adherence with the glitter. I mean, I have when it comes to my face, but I have noticed that each day that I've done these looks, I have had fallout at the end of the night. So with look number 2, whenever I took it off at the end of the night, I did have fallout. And I also noticed like glitter on my husband's face as well. So it's like it jumps from one face to another, kind of like ticks. So I'm gonna use a Kara Beauty eye primer. This is super tacky and very highly adhering. And I will test out the glitters with actual glitter glue on my own. I just wanted to test out the glitters in this video without any kind of assistance because a lot of people don't have glitter glue. So I'm just gonna start out doing the same thing. I'm gonna go into Matte Aura, which is that cream shade, and use this to set my primer down, but I'm just gonna set from my crease up to my brow bone. I'm not gonna set my lid. I'll set a little bit on my outer V as well. And by the way, these do work very well without eye primer as well, without any kind of base. They don't wear as well. Like I did get some creasing on the day that I wore these without primer, but I mean, they blended and they performed really, really well without primer. Like they were still very pigmented, easy to work with, the whole shebang. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that in my opinion, it's not really necessary to use the sequins and the mattes for the same purpose. So just to show you how the sequins and the matte perform, I kind of want to use the sequins as the same way I would do a matte. So instead of going into Matte Soothe, which is what I've been doing for a transition shade for every look, I'm gonna go into Sequin Soothe. So this is the exact same tone, it just has a gold glitter sequins. Now I've been editing these videos and I'm so tired of saying sequins. It's just like, oh, that word's got on my nerves so much. And I'm gonna treat this just like I would a matte. So I'm just gonna put this in my outer V and then work it up into my crease. So like using the sequin shades as transition shades, like you do see that glitter a little bit in there, but it's so subtle. Okay, so there's a sequin shade. Hopefully I'm not getting washed out. But yeah, I'm gonna turn my head a little bit so you can see. When it's all said and done, you really can't make out that it's a sequins formula. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into Sequins Ritual. So this is just a dark brown with a golden sequin glitter. So I'm gonna start putting this all over the lid and just work it up into the crease. By the time I get to the crease though, it'll be way more faded because we've kind of established that whenever you first lay it down, it's really concentrated and like super opaque. And then the more you buff and blend, it softens really well. And once I get the majority of the product off on my lid and I get up to the crease, I'm just gonna start buffing it back and forth. And as you can see, it blends out really nicely. Okay, so now for glitter, I'm gonna go into Ritual Glitter, and this is a really multi-dimensional bronze. I really like this one. So I'm not gonna use a glitter glue. Once again, that's not what we're gonna do in this video, but I'm just gonna put this all over the mobile lid, even the outer V. So yeah, this looks really basic in the pan, but on the lids, you can see it has like an orange, like a pumpkin orange, copper, silver, gold glitter throughout it. Like it's so multi-dimensional, but in the pan it just looks like your basic bronze glitter. But this also pairs really well with that story row, so the orange row. Okay, so there's a glitter. Oh, I'm so obsessed with that one. So now I'm gonna go in and kind of enhance the pumpkin orange glitter reflex in there. So I'm gonna go into Sequins Story, which is just kind of like a burnt orange with a gold sequins. And it looks really like fiery and just really like almost like a bright orange, but on the lid it kind of picks up to be more burnt. Like it has more of like a deep aspect to it, which I personally like because whenever I first saw the palette, I was kind of turned off by the orange row. I'm just gonna tap this in the outer V, so right over that glitter. So I'm really just stamping it in kind of like a V motion, and I'm gonna blend out the edges in just a second with something else. Okay, so there's what it looks like without any kind of excess blending. So I am gonna go into Matte Soothe, just to help blend out the edges. So I'm gonna take it on a smaller crease brush just so I have precision because I don't wanna blend too much and I don't wanna blend in the wrong areas. And then I'm gonna go into Matte Aura, which is that cream, as my brow bone highlight again, and then blend that brow bone with the crease. So I'm trying to decide if I wanna use the matte brown or the matte black as eyeliner. Let's try the Matte Ritual, so that matte dark brown. So I'm just gonna pack this right at the lash line. So I feel like I have to pack on a lot of product, and that can get kind of time consuming. Okay, so there's the brown. That's pretty. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the black, so Matte Memory. And I'm just gonna go right on top of that. Now I will say these matte shades do have a hard time covering up the glitter where they're not super opaque. Okay, so there's the eyes. A lot of glitter fallout there. I mean, the other shades really don't have a lot of fallout. It's really just the glitter. And I mean, that's typical. I expect that. I just wish it wasn't so like hard to remove. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with some eye makeup remover again. I'm gonna use a different one. This is an oil base, so maybe it'll remove it a little bit better. I just realized I probably need to go ahead and do my lower lash line before I do my face, which I really don't like doing, but that's the only way I can avoid the fallout, because if I have to go back in and touch up and add more glitter or, you know, do the lower lash line, it can get really messy, and then I'm back at square one. So lower lash line, I'm gonna first go into actually, I was gonna say Matte Soothe. Let's go into Sequin Soothe. And again, I'm just gonna use it for the same purpose I would the matte one. And I'm just gonna use this to buff out the lower lash line. I really don't like doing this before concealer and my foundation, but sometimes you have to adjust. And then I'm gonna let's go into Sequin Ritual. And let's use this to stamp right the lash line. I'm gonna go into just a little bit of Sequin Story, which is the orange. I don't want much of this. I'm just gonna put this right in my lash line too, just to warm it up and to tie everything together. I don't want it to show up a whole lot. Like I don't want it to be, you know, too overwhelming with orange, but I think it'll add a nice touch. So now for inner corner highlight, I'm gonna try to go into Metallic Story. I haven't used this one yet. This is the orange one. I don't know how it's gonna blend into the glitter, but I just wanna see how it looks. It may be fun. And just pop it right in there. That's really pretty. It's not too orange, like it actually adds a really nice touch. It's not too bright though, so I may go in and mix it with something else to give some added brightness. So let's see, let's go into a dash of Glitter Soothe, which is this. I haven't used this one yet. This one has more of like a light brown taupey aspect to it. It's basically the same tone as the rest of the row. I mean, duh. And this time I'm actually gonna wet the brush just to see if we can avoid some fallout. That might be the only remedy for it. So I'm just gonna put a little, oh, I like that. I'm just gonna kind of bounce it into the eyelid shade just so it all blends together, just like that. That's really, really pretty. So for inner corner highlights, whenever you're using a glitter on the lid, seems like the best way to make it all blend together is to use a glitter on the inner corner as well. So you may not like to do that, but in my opinion, I feel like it looks better than using the metallics, which are just shimmers, and definitely using the sequins. The sequins are just, they're too matte. But I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and finish up the rest of my face, and I'll come back and show you guys the finished look, and we will do our final thoughts. Alrighty guys, so I'm back with the finished look, and once again, if you wanna see what I'm wearing on the rest of my face, I'll have it all linked under look number 3 in the description box. So make sure you check down there if you wanna see how I got the rest of my look. But yeah, I really like how this one turned out as well. I feel like this is definitely more my fall look for the video. So now that we've done all the looks, I'm gonna backtrack and go over everything from the packaging to the price, the formula, the finishes, pros, cons, good, bad, literally everything I have to say about the palette. So first let's talk about the packaging. So as far as how it feels, this is a super sturdy, very strong, heavy duty, high quality packaging. It feels very expensive. It doesn't feel like a cheap palette. It doesn't feel like something that's gonna break. I like the fact that you get a really good size mirror in here. Even though I don't really use mirrors in palettes, I feel like this is a really good touch. It's very clear, it's very large. It covers the entire length and width of the palette, of like the lid. So I feel like this is gonna come in handy for a lot of people. Also, something I do really like about the packaging is the fact that you can bend the lid down like this, because with a lot of palettes you have to lay them flat on your desk and they take up a lot of space and clutter. So I really like the fact that it closes completely like this and it's easier to hold. And then when I get into the outer packaging, and I almost feel bad for talking about this just because it's very opinion based, like it's very nitpicky. I'm not trying to be like over analytical. It's not my brand. I want to give you guys my observations about everything. Personally, I kind of expected it to look a little more glamorous. To me, the font is very plain, especially for Tati. I don't know, the gold on the black, it's kind of boring to me. And you know, it's very basic. Like she's also, like whenever I think of her, I think classy and feminine and you know, just professional. So this is a very professional palette. It's not super blingy. It doesn't stand out a lot. If you're a makeup artist, you know, if you put this in your kit, it looks like a super high-end expensive palette. So maybe that's what she was trying to go for. Maybe she just didn't want to cheapen the palette by doing something that's, you know, glittery. Not that I wanted glitter or anything. Now I will say something that I don't like about the packaging is the matte finish. I hate a matte finish material on a palette. It just gets so fingerprinty and dirty and it shows everything and it's really hard to clean off. Even when you wipe it down, you can see the smears of whatever you're wiping it down with. So now let's talk about the price. So this is $48 and you get 24 shades. And I feel like that's actually a pretty good deal for the amount that you're getting for a high-end palette. Anastasia palettes are $42 and $45. Huda palettes are like $65. Urban Decay palettes, $52. So I feel like for 24 shades, $48 is a really, really good deal, especially for the quality of the formula. But I will say by the time you pay shipping, because she doesn't really offer free shipping, I'm sure she will at some, you know, at certain points, I'm sure she will offer free shipping if you buy a certain amount, but you're basically paying $48 plus at least $4.95 with tax and everything for the palette. I think it was about $55. So you're really not paying $48 because you have to pay shipping regardless of where you are. It's still expensive, but I mean, I do think it's worth it. So now let's talk about the layout and the arrangement of the shadows. I have heard some people say that they don't like the arrangement as far as how each row is its own color story. I kind of have mixed feelings on it. I think for this palette it works, especially if you're not super artsy and creative. You can literally just go down the line and create a look that's cohesive, it matches, it's pretty clear cut. Usually I don't like to see glitters and shimmers next to each other, so like usually if I saw a palette with like glitters next to each other like that, it would kind of bother me and throw me off. There's like a balance issue there, but with the way that she's done it, I feel like it does work. So now let's talk about each formula. So I really want to get into the nitty gritty and give you all my opinions on this because I really hope that she watches these videos and takes it as constructive criticism to better her brand. And I have no doubt that she will. I don't think that she would ever watch these videos and get upset or take it personally or be offended by it. So the mattes pretty much across the board and pretty consistently are more of a buildable formula. They are pigmented, but they definitely are easy to soften and blur. Whenever you first lay the brush down, it is pretty concentrated, but again, just spend a little time buffing it out and it blends out really, really well. So I do like the mattes. However, I do wish there was a tad bit more opacity. Like I wish they were just a little bit more pigmented just because, especially when it comes to using like the black and brown for liner, I just need a little bit more pigment because I felt like I had to just keep dipping in, back and forth, and it gets really redundant and time consuming. Now again, I will say a more buildable formula like that does come in handy when it comes to putting it on your outer V or like pretty much anywhere on your lid, because you do want something that's a little bit more soft and buildable so that you don't start off with too much and have to go back and try to erase it. It's a lot easier to build up than it is to erase. So they are very layerable, so depending on your skin tone, you can get, you know, different depths and intensities of the same shade. Poet was probably the most pigmented one of all. I feel like that one did start off a lot more opaque right off the bat. Again, it did soften out very easily, but I felt like I did have to work with that one just a tad bit more just to make sure it wasn't too intense. But yeah, across the board, I would prefer more pigmentation, but they are a good formula. The sequence formula. So this one was kind of a weird one to me. This one I have mixed feelings on. I feel like it definitely has its own place. I feel like it's very unique. I will say a peeve that I have with the sequence formula is that I hate the fact that they're the exact same shade, like the same base shade as a matte. So like today, I used the sequin shade in my crease, and it doesn't really look any different than the matte. And a couple of my looks, I would put down the matte first, I would put in my outer V and then go in with the sequins on top. Totally unnecessary to do that. I feel like I've got 12 of the exact same color. They have their place in a look, they just need to be a different color. So now let's talk about the metallic row. So in my opinion, it is an extreme overstatement to call this row metallic. I will say this one right here in the memory row, this like bluish charcoal gray, that's the closest thing to being a metallic finish. However, I would consider it to be more like the glitter formula. It doesn't have the glitter chunks or anything, but as far as how it feels to the touch, how it performs, how it packs on and applies, it literally performs the exact same way as the glitter row. So to me, this shade just doesn't fit in with the rest of the row. But as far as the rest of the row goes, I would just call them shimmer, like just call them what they are, because I feel like there's a distinct difference between a metallic finish and a shimmer finish. Whenever I think metallic, I think super, super opaque and rich and buttery and wet. They're a very dry formula. They're very stiff. And to me, like, they're smooth, don't get me wrong, and they feel very expensive, but that's not metallic. So I don't really understand, with as many shadows and formulations and palettes that she's tried, why she would call these metallic. Like, she should know better. I just feel like that's, like I said, just an extreme overstatement. And then the glitter formula. So I feel like the glitter formula is probably the best, most unique aspect about this palette. So if you're not someone that likes glitters, I would probably say this palette really isn't for you. To buy it just for these 3 rows right here, I would say it's not worth it at all. But I do feel like the pressed glitters, like, I feel like they are kind of hard to do. Like, I feel like brands really haven't, they haven't gotten it down pat when it comes to a pressed glitter. Again, I do need to play around with them and figure out the best way to apply them and the best way to get them to stick, because on one hand, they're highly adhering. Like, when it comes to the skin, like fallout and flaking from applying it, you can get it off. But when it comes to the eyes, on me, for whatever reason, they flake all throughout the day. But I also didn't use a glitter glue, so maybe that's just something that you need to do to make them work better. I'm sure it does work better. But yeah, I love the glitters. I feel like they're so dimensional, and they have such a pretty shine to them. Like, they're just so sparkly, and they make your eyes pop. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the formulas. So who is this palette going to be good for? Personally, I feel like if you're looking for a good everyday palette, this probably isn't it. Like I said in the beginning, whenever I first saw this palette, the first thing I thought of was special occasions. Obviously, there are everyday, quick and easy looks that you can do with it. I probably wouldn't gravitate towards this on a daily basis. Like, this is a very, like, glam palette. I do want to talk about a couple of changes that I would make to it to better the palette. Now, it doesn't really matter. I don't have control over it. It's not my brand. It's not my palette. It's already been done. But this would be the perfect palette if, instead of the magenta color story down here, it was like mauves and light pinks, just because the palette's called Textured Neutrals, and that's the perfect name for this section, but magenta isn't neutral. I feel like the direction has kind of gone from earthy tones and, you know, tans, browns, stuff like that, to, you know, mauves and pinks, and I feel like that's the new nude. Like, you have the Huda Beauty new nude palette. Like, I feel like that's what mauves and light pinks are. Like, they're the new nude. I don't know if Tati not liking mauves has anything to do with her not putting it in the palette. But as I said, as a working makeup artist, whenever I first saw this palette, I thought special occasion makeup. Like, that would be perfect if that's the only palette that I had to have in my kit. However, that wouldn't be the case because of this row down here. Or even if it's like purple, like if it's a purple row, like a really classy eggplant plum row. And I know she's wanting to create purple palettes and stuff like that. Purple's her favorite color, so I know she can't use all of her ideas for one palette, but like, if this row was either mauves or like plums, oh my God. I would literally ask for nothing else ever again. And then again, I would change the sequence row. I would make the base shade a different tone than the matte because it's just a little bit too redundant. I would definitely change the metallic formula, and I would make the mattes a little bit more pigmented, just a tad bit more. So there it is. There are my thoughts on the Texture Neutrals Volume 1 Tati Beauty Palette. And don't get me wrong, it's a very, very good palette. I thoroughly enjoy it, and trust me, I will be getting my money's worth from this palette. This palette will be put to very, very good use. I do not regret buying this palette. I am happy to have it. I feel like it's a really good addition to my existing collection. There is a lot that I would change about it, but there's also a lot of good about it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the looks and found the information helpful and beneficial in trying to decide whether or not you want to pick up the palette, and I will see you guys in my next one. Mwah.